Welcome back, Book Dragons. I am so glad that you are here. Today is the main event. I am finally bringing you the best books that I read in 2025. I'm so excited to share these with you, and we're going to get right to it. Make sure you have snacks and drinks if you need them. If not, pause the video, and I will be here right when you get back. For starters, I have an honorable mention. And like I always do, I usually do some honorable mentions. And in past years, it's been because it was a series that I had read that I couldn't really pick which book in that series was the best. And so I just used the entire series as the honorable mention. And I am doing that today as well, because I read the entirety of the Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb in 2025, and I am absolutely blown away continually by the Realm of the Elderlings. And so my honorable mention is the entirety of the Rainwild Chronicles. It was brilliant. I absolutely loved it, and I can't really try to decide which of those books is best, because the way Robin Hobb writes is it's all one cohesive story, and I don't know how I can pick that apart and choose one of the books. So that's what I'm doing for my honorable mention. And now let's get to the 10 books that were my best books of 2025. Okay? And the first book on this list is Babylon's Ashes. That is book 6 in the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. And this series is divided up in such a way that the first 6 books are one complete arc, and then you have a 30-year time jump between books 6 and 7, so the final 3 books in the series take place 30 years later. And it's really interesting how the authors did that, and I think it works. Now, granted, I have not finished book 7 yet. I'm still technically in the middle of book 7. But I think it worked out really well. They age the characters in such a way that it makes sense for those characters. And so the climactic ending, and it was climactic, of book 6 was a phenomenal way to end that particular story arc. And so yes, Babylon's Ashes is number 10, and I really, really enjoyed how they wrapped that up in a nice, neat little bow and set up things still for what was going to happen in later books. So, absolute banger of a novel, and that's my number 10. Number 9 is Upgrade by Blake Crouch. And this is kind of a genetic modification sci-fi story written in classic Blake Crouch style. It's edge of your seat pretty much the whole way. It is definitely an action thriller. The pacing is wild, but well-paced still. And I just really thoroughly enjoyed this book. Some people don't enjoy all of Blake Crouch's books, but I have not found one that I did not enjoy yet. I've only read 3, but Upgrade was a real winner for me. So that's coming in at number 9. Number 8 is The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. I really fell in love with John Scalzi's writing in 2025. I read several books of his. Kaiju was such a great read, and I read other good ones too. I read Starter Villain, which was really good, and there was one other one that I read that I can't remember, but Kaiju was probably the best of what I've read from him so far, and it was the best book of his that I read in 2025. And Kaiju Preservation Society is Jurassic Park, but with kaiju instead of dinosaurs, and a little bit of cross-dimensional travel. But it was fantastic. Really enjoyed reading this book. So humorous, just laugh out loud funny at times. The science is palatable, really easy to read and grasp the concepts that they talk about in the book. And yeah, if you like kaiju, if you're a fan of Godzilla and Mothra and all the classic kaiju movies, you'll feel right at home with this. And if you like Jurassic Park, yeah, you'll feel right at home. So read it. I highly recommend it. Comes in at number 8. All right, so book number 7 on this list is Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching by Ken Liu. I have never had a nonfiction book on my top 10 list. And I don't think, anyway. But this definitely deserves its spot. It's a fantastic book. The way Ken Liu approaches the Tao Te Ching is to just give you his rough translation of most of it with little bits of commentary here and there, but he really focuses on the reader's experience of the text as it is plainly stated by Lao Tzu. And I think that's phenomenal. He's definitely not a purist when it comes to this is the only way to read it. He's very much of the mindset that the reader is going to get out of this text what they get out of it. It's going to be different, or at least differently nuanced for each person who reads the Tao Te Ching. So I really like that approach. And this is a really short book. It's a phenomenal book. And it deserves its spot at number 7. You guys know that I'm a fan of Taoist philosophy, and the Tao Te Ching is the core text for Taoist philosophy. Ken Liu presented it in a phenomenal way. So, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so moving on, we're going to number 6. And that would be Discovery by J.A.J. Minton. This is, of course, John and Jacob and John's wife Amy over at Talking Story. Well, she's Jacob's mom too. But the three Mintons, we'll put it that way, over at Talking Story. Not only do they have a phenomenal channel, but they wrote such a fantastic debut novel. And it's really a genre blender. There's so many different genres that are showcased in this book. Lovecraftian horror is a big one. Mystery elements, slice of life. It's really a phenomenal book, and it's hard to describe. You just have to read it. And yeah, guys, this definitely deserves its spot in my top 10 because it just was everything I was looking for in a new and fresh take on Lovecraftian horror, but also some of these other genres as well. And the characters were so well developed. I just absolutely loved my time reading it, and I can't wait for the next installment. And I may grab the audiobook eventually so that I can experience it on audio with a full cast and kind of do a reread that way in preparation for book 2. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet, but I am really excited for whenever book 2 comes out. Discovery was a solid win for me. So Discovery comes in at number 6 on this list. All right, the next book on this list, coming in at number 5, is The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. And I had been waiting a long time for a new Robert Langdon novel. Dan Brown delivered in spades. It really is such a great book. It's a very different book in a lot of ways from previous Langdon novels because it explores the science of the mind and consciousness, and there's a thrill ride of epic proportions that is at the heart of this book, and people trying to keep the truth from getting out to the public and suppressing the truth, and it's phenomenal. He said it took him 8 years to write this because he was doing so much research and looking into the science of consciousness. And I was on the edge of my seat the entire time reading this. I highly recommend it. So yes, that one comes in at number 5. Okay. Moving on to number 4. And that would be A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is book 2 of the Shadow of the Leviathan series. And this is the second Anna and Din mystery. And I love how each book in this series could technically be a standalone if you wanted to read them as standalones. But they also have a through line that gives you the story of Anna and Din and delves into their background and how they got to where they are now. And you start uncovering mysteries about them, but also mysteries about the larger world that this takes place in. I enjoyed this book just as much, maybe even more than The Tainted Cup. So if you are looking for a new and very different series to get into and you like fantasy mysteries, this is going to be a win for you guys. I feel like it is anyway, just my personal opinion. But I think you should really check it out. And it's got, it's weird. It's kind of like fantasy with like botany stuff, like plants and things like that. That's why I call it botany punk. So good, guys. So that comes in at number 4. Okay, so now we're to my top 3, guys. Top 3, and the first one of those is Empire of the Dawn by Jay Kristoff, coming in at number 3. I will be making a review for this series here in the next couple of weeks. I really had to sit with the ending on this one because it was a very different ending than I was probably expecting. It's been a very controversial ending for a lot of people. I had some gripes with it at first, but the more I've sat with it, the more I appreciate it so much more. And I think that overall, Jay Kristoff really nailed the ending for this series. And I am so happy to have the series completed. In a sense, it's kind of bittersweet, because the series is over. But if I was to reread a series, I think this would definitely be on the ticket for rereading. So who knows? Maybe one of these days I will reread the Empire of the Vampire series. But it's fantastic, guys. If you like epic fantasy and you want to add vampires to that, so it's an epic vampire fantasy, this is the series for you. All right, coming in at number 2, guys. Number 2 on this list is One Grim Night by Chad Nicholas. Chad has had a spot on my top 10 at least the last 3 years because he just writes such great stories. And One Grim Night is no different. He takes Grimm's fairy tales, some of the most well-known Grimm's fairy tales, puts them in a locked room scenario or like a locked cabin scenario, and interweaves the stories of each of the different characters together. Whereas in the Grimm's fairy tales, they're all different separate tales, but he weaves them together in such a way that they meet each other and interact with each other. And oh man, the ending, the climax of the book was just such an amazing ride. There were things that I kind of thought might happen, but I was really very surprised by the ending and the twists and turns that this book took. Chad is the master of the plot twist. Oh, guys, you need to check out Chad Nicholas's books. He is fantastic. And One Grim Night comes in at number 2. And this was a tough one, guys, because I really went back and forth. Okay, is this going to go in my number 1? Or am I going to go with what I've been saying is my number 1 all this year? And I settled on that. So this came in at number 2. And number 1, guys, as a result of that, number 1 is Shogun by James Clavell. I read this over the course of 2 months, January and February of 2025, and I was absolutely blown away. And I had been on the fence with this one because it sounded really good. I'd heard so many good reviews of it, but I was just dead set on the idea that I don't really click with historical fiction. But this had elements to it that just really, really worked for me. I love Japanese culture. I love ancient Japanese culture especially, and the era of the shogunate and the samurais and everything about that, and an Englishman getting stranded in the remote reaches of Japanese territory. I was just eating it up. I mean, the character development as the main character learns Japanese and learns to understand the culture and to try and disentangle his mind from the trappings of English culture that he'd always grown up with and things. I was blown away by how epic this story was. It was so intricately detailed. The characters were amazing. The plot progression just was so immersive. I just couldn't get enough. And no one book over the course of the entirety of 2025 has impacted me or been more memorable to me than Shogun was. So, Shogun is my number 1 book of 2025. And wow, guys, I had a phenomenal reading year. There were so many other good books that could have easily gone on this list. If I did a top 20, they probably would have gone on there. But, trying to keep it down to a minimum and just do my top 10, these are the ones that stuck out to me the most. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that I've given you some good ideas for books you might want to read. I hope I've reminded you of some old favorites that maybe you haven't read in a while and maybe you want to reread. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what some of your favorite books of 2025 were. If you only want to tell me your number 1 book of 2025, if you're able to pin that down, you can tell me that in the comments. Talk to me about the ones I chose. I would love to talk with you. And until next time, guys, make sure and read more books. I will talk to you very soon.